Hi everyone, thank you for joining us. We're just waiting for Ben to join us on the chat, and then we'll be getting started from 4 p.m. Okay. Hi Ben, just connecting you. There you go. You should be able to speak now.
Cool. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Okay. Yes. Good to know that everything works. You look very professional with your microphone.
Start. It's because I've had meetings all morning. Unfortunately, I'm literally cracking on the inside.
You look much smarter than I've seen most people working from home, so credits to you.
Maybe I'm just like not wearing any trousers now, I'm joking. I've seen like loads of like memes about that. Anyway, we're still a little bit early, aren't we?
Yeah, so we've got 3 people with us at the moment. So everyone can kind of chat in the sidebar if anyone has any questions. But yeah, I think we're probably expecting more people to join from 4 o'clock. So we'll
cool.
just sit here and look at your beautiful face until
we'll just have a hoedown. Where's the sidebar?
So
I see. I have the chat. Here we go.
Yeah.
Has anyone typed anything yet? No.
No, I think
group chat's not going
for
on.
All of the information to roll in. Oh, I'm just gonna turn off that camera.
Oh, are you turning off people's cameras?
Yeah, so that I think all the chat will just focus on you, and then all the chat can be done in the sidebar.
In the chat function.
Yeah. Okay.
How was your break?
Oh,
that was Amanda.
Wait, I'm sorry. We need to. Maybe Ben, if you can change the settings on the side. I think some people's microphones are left on.
Is Amanda one of the hosts as well?
I am, yes. So it should just be you and me.
And Rebecca?
No,
sorry, me. I just, for some reason, must be logged into Amanda's account. Sorry. It's fine though, right? I'm going to turn my mic off, but it's okay if I'm on here, right? Okay.
Yeah, no, please. Yeah, if you just be quiet.
Oh, here we go. I know. I see lots of people I know. Hi, everyone.
Great.
Can people still join whilst we're talking? Can they join like halfway through?
So, so everyone can use the chat box on the side to pop in their questions. But I think if we give everyone just 5 minutes or so to make sure that they're joined up.
Yeah.
And then if you want to give a short introduction, people can just pop
Cool. Should I do that in a couple of minutes just so we give people a bit of leeway time?
Yeah, definitely. So everyone who's currently watching, get your notebooks at the ready. Oh, good. I can see some familiar names popping up on the side.
Yeah, I feel like I know most people, yeah, in some capacity.
Fab. Popular guy.
Stop, man. I tell you what, work. I feel like everyone said that work would quiet down from working from home, but I don't know about you, but it has made me work so much more because I feel like I never stop working, as in like I have no like separation between normal work and now working from home. So I'll be like on my laptop at sort of 2 a.m. just like shooting off some emails.
It's a slippery slope.
It really is. Yeah. I want to see what the work landscape will be like after the virus, because I feel like lots of companies will be like, we were just as efficient working from home, so we'll like lay off this floor in terms of won't bother renting it, and we'll just have that kind of group work from home. So that would be really, I was actually talking to someone who works for Hugo Boss today about that, and they were like, in Germany everyone's so efficient working from home that like they're sort of thinking, what's the point in having a centralized office apart from for like really senior executives?
Gosh,
but
it's a shame to lose that kind of personal side of it, I think.
Yeah, especially something like fashion, you want to be able to like,
you want to show off what you're wearing, right?
That's literally no. If you work at Hugo Boss, you probably have some great suits, so I feel like work's probably your runway.
Yeah, literally.
Some people are probably gutted about that now. Let's see, how many more? A bunch of people.
Yeah, it's looking like a good turnout.
Cool, so we'll just wait till 4:05 and then start.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Oh, Co just sent a nice message. I don't know if you've seen. Said, "Hi, Amanda and Ben. I hope you two are okay."
Aww.
We're okay.
I think.
I hope everyone else is okay and doing well, given the current situation.
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
It's just like the audio wobbled. I tell you what, everyone listening, whilst we're not talking about the consultancy yet, if you're looking for something to do during the time being, people like Business of Fashion are running online courses that are really good. So there's a website called Future Learn, literally just futurelearn.com, and people like Jacques Mousse, so the designer Simon pour Jacques Mousse, is running like a 6-week free, I think it's free, fashion course about like the ins and outs of fashion business. And I think for you guys, lots of you guys, that's quite relevant because whether you know who Jacques Mousse is or not, he's a new designer who's just come out of France. He's in his sort of late 20s, and he's only come around within the last 5 years. And his company is now massive. They have like Bella Hadid walk the runway. I went to his spring summer show last year, and like all of the big names in fashion were there in terms of like Anna Wintour, and he really scaled up his company within a couple of years. So he's a really interesting tutor to sort of do a course with. And he provides some really great insights on sort of how fashion is changing the world, how to run a business in a coherent way. And then there's a couple of other ones. UAL, so University of Arts London and Kering have done one together as well, which is fashion and sustainability. So for lots of the LDC designers, of course, this will be coherent with their business model because sustainability is a big thing that lots of you play into. And I think that one is paid. I think it's about £40. And it lasts over six weeks, and they give you like a proper lesson structure, and it's a really interesting way to sort of spend a bit of time doing something that feels academic and applicable without having to like break the bank. So yeah.
Cool, thank you. That sounds really interesting. Definitely take a look.
I know.
Okay, so it's 4:05 now, so I think it would be great to make a start on everything. But first of all, thank you so much everyone for joining us today. We've got a solid 21 participants, which is fantastic. And yeah, great to kind of have the community together, albeit we can't exactly see you right now, but it's good to know that you guys are all there and you're all well. And yeah, big thank you to you, Ben, for giving us your time today and for sharing your wisdom about the ins and outs of the current situation. I think this time really goes to show that we need to kind of pull together and kind of reflect on business as usual and what that really stands for at the moment, and kind of use this as a time to really, you know, find out what's important and make the correct choices. So Ben, if you want to take the floor and tell us a bit about what you do and what's on offer.
Okay, so hi everyone. I do like recognize loads of you anyway, so obviously a lot of you I will know. Alison, Stacey, all of you guys I know. Some of you guys won't know me, but I have brushed around the LDC store a few times. So my name's Ben. I run BWP Consultancy, and basically a couple of years ago I had lots of friends coming out of St. Martin's launching fashion brands, and sort of getting ripped off by PR agencies or really like kind of paying through the throat for consultants, like thousands of pounds. And I decided that because I was working at Vogue and because I had a lot of work with lots of fashion brands and I'd worked at Prada and Burberry previously, that I had a really good coherent understanding of how fashion ticked and how small fashion brands could grow as well. So I started a consultancy agency, and now a couple of years down the line, I've had nearly 30 clients, and 26 of them are now stocked in Harrods, Liberty, Selfridges, Bloomingdale's, Lane Crawford. So that's kind of what I specialize in, which is growing small brands and helping small brands grow. And then I take on a few big kind of brand clients each year. So Burberry, Prada, and I just signed Alexander McQueen. What's the date today? 6 days ago. So yeah, which is good. So that's a little background on me.
Very
stop. No. And really the sort of purpose of this was when I started to realize the impact of the coronavirus, I realized how kind of devastating it could be for small companies. Obviously, I run my own business. I grew up with both my parents running their own businesses as well. So I sort of know how uncertain economic kind of turbulence can be, especially during a time like this. So I contacted LDC and I said, look, I put together a sort of a coronavirus consultancy package for small businesses. Let's get it out to your brands so we can get them sort of really, really affordable advice. And LDC, of course, were amazing, as always. Thanks, Amanda. And Rebecca as well, because straight away, you guys know they would give an arm and a leg to help you guys. So that's sort of what we did. I had advertised it previously through a couple of other brands, through a couple of other organizations. At the moment, I have done 74 consultations in the last couple of days, in the last like 6 days, 5 days, helping small brands grow, which obviously is sort of great because it's kind of exactly what I love to do. Like you guys, oh, I should just say the chat function as well, so everyone knows. If you have any questions, stick them in the chat and I will answer them sort of on the roll. Don't worry if you feel like you're like interrupting me, just stick it in and I'll answer your question at the next available sentence break. Yeah, so the purpose of this was to help small brands grow. What I did was I worked with a couple of economists, one at Columbia University in New York, and then I had a couple of help from a research economist in Shanghai and another research economist in London. I also had a couple of people who work for political think tanks who I spoke to, and then I worked with McKinsey consultants, who are sort of the biggest economic consultants in America. And they're sort of world renowned. They are kind of for fashion and for other creative industries as well. They often seem a bit corporate. So what sort of the importance of this to do was to take their information and really break it down, make it accessible, and to provide consultation during this time that was data-led, not emotion-led. I don't think during this time period, it's intelligent to suddenly do a really, really like wacky campaign unless it's empirically proven that it will hit a specific niche in the market. You know, there are sort of other times in fashion, in the economy, when it might be kind of good to take a chance. I don't think the chance is now. That's not to say you can't do a really cool campaign, but what my job would be to do would just be to make sure that there is sort of a market, a driven number behind it, all of that stuff. Cool. So this is a sort of taster session, a kind of general overview. And then what I'm doing with LDC is providing sort of an hour and a half consultation for £125, which is like completely tailored to what your brand specifically needs to do. I will say that, like, I think seeking some sort of professional advice in any capacity is pretty essential during this time, to make sure that your brand doesn't kind of fall under, or to make sure that your brand doesn't just kind of survive. I think the purpose is that whilst we have this active audience at home, you don't just want to survive, you actually want to thrive and take advantage of a captive audience. Yeah, I just want to check, Amanda, you can hear me and everything okay? Cool. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, just double check.
If anyone can't hear or has any questions or anything, do make sure you're popping it in the chat. I'll read out any questions so they won't be missed.
Gracias. There is also obviously a big gap in the market right now because Net-a-Porter Group, so the group that runs Net-a-Porter, Ukes, YOOZ, and Mr. Porter have closed distribution because they can't manage the packaging. So what would normally have a domination on the market of luxury retailing, I understand not all of you are luxury, but I know quite a few of you brands are sort of teetering on the luxury bracket. You know, if you're kind of over the £200 mark for some of your products, then you're kind of teetering on that luxury bracket. And also, you know, even if you're selling luxury style products at a lower price, you still hit that kind of the mindset of the luxury consumer. You're within that sort of vernacular of the luxury consumer. So yeah, that's really important because there's definitely a gap in the market there with that retailer being closed down. There is also a gap in the market. People like Burberry, they lost their stock by 5.6%. Kering went down by 5.9%. So all of these big players have taken hits, and consequently, there are kind of provisions that smaller brands can put in place to sort of fill that consumer gap, because there is still a want for it. What is a great thing to do is to make sure that you are communicating with your specific sort of community. So if you're selling jewelry, then you're not just selling jewelry to everyone, because that doesn't work. You know, you don't stand in the middle of a department store and just randomly screen jewelry. People go to the specific, oh, is this like sustainable gold jewelry? Is this sustainable silver jewelry? Whatever. Interact with that marketplace that is a community. And of course, it's pretty easy to do that on Instagram. Just make sure that you're having a dialogue with your consumer. You're not just telling them they need stuff. What we call this sort of economy is a comfort economy. So people want to be sort of mollycoddled, for want of a better word. People want to feel like the products they buy bring them a positive reinforcement in their life. So if there's a positive consumer attachment to that, consequently, they are more likely to not only buy, but be a repeat customer, and give you sort of better reviews. There's a kind of perfect example of that is when like crystals blew up in America, especially in LA, about 5 years ago. And it was this idea that like buy like a $300 crystal and it will like inline your chakra. And it was like a $4.7 billion industry at one point just in LA. And it's because there was comfort consumerism attached to it. So it wasn't just, oh, I've made this purchase, it's quite expensive, but I like it. It's, I've made this purchase, it's expensive, but actually it's an investment in myself. So interacting with your community like that is a really great thing to do. So what we're looking at now is sort of the two scenarios of the coronavirus, without kind of getting into it too much numerically. We have kind of the economic impact, and then the delayed impact. So the delayed impact is we'll go sort of to the end of the summer, and then towards Christmas it will really start to hit people hard, because bills have a tendency to stack up in the later months. Things like weather problems, things like overusing your boiler, whatever, these sort of home bills for normal people stack up in the later months. So that's a difficulty, because then that stops people buying, especially in a disposable industry. Like fashion's known, people will skimp out on luxuries when they don't feel like it's necessary, which is why that kind of comfort consumerism is important. Or we have sort of a real proper like big smack to the economy, like we saw in China, where it was really just like a brief burst of about 2 months and then economic recovery. To be honest, I think the latter is more likely, especially in the UK. We certainly haven't reeled out our economic recovery packages quick enough. I think that's just the through and through of it. China was extraordinary in how they dealt with Wuhan and all of the crisis, and how they injected cash flow into their economy and investment. We haven't done that in the UK, so we can expect sort of a bigger effect, unfortunately. What is positive about China is how quickly their consumer habits recovered. So although it might get quite bad in terms of clients or potential business, consumer consumption recovered really quickly in China. I mean, we've seen like a 23% increase over the last week. And like there are lines outside Chanel, for example, and places like that are turning people away. And that's because people do still want stuff. It's not like everyone's money has just disappeared. So there is a potential for recovery there. So in terms of things that what companies seem to be missing at the moment, it's sort of not just having an emotional understanding, but having an intellectual understanding to the problem. So, you know, lots of people don't react particularly well in terms of telling their consumers that they're sterilizing products. For example, people will sometimes get asked, I know, like, have you sterilized this? Has this been packaged properly? And sometimes get offended. Not everyone, but some people. They sort of feel like it's a personal attack on their hygiene. It's really not. You don't know who has vulnerable people living at home, whatever. You can never be careful enough. So just make sure that you're informing your consumer that you are taking the necessary precautions. And if you're not taking the necessary precautions, then you should be. So you should be using alcohol wipes if you can get them. I understand, obviously there's a big shortage at the moment, but you should be using alcohol wipes if you can get them, to disinfect your products, to wipe down your packaging. It is also worth making sure that you're posting that on your stories, on your social media relatively regularly. If you get contacted by a client, even if they don't ask it, tell them, because it's just removing another uncertainty that they might have, and it makes them more inclined to purchase. Those of you who have done consultancy with me, you'll know that my favorite statistic, if I could pick one, is that it takes about 12 to 15 seconds for you to turn a browser into a client. So for you to turn someone who's just kind of looking around, for them to actually decide there is a legitimate thing that I would want to buy from this. It's the same on your social media. You have about 15 seconds to grab someone's attention. I would say perhaps even less now, because people are fleeting, because there is such a kind of constant bombardment of media, that people aren't necessarily taking the time at the moment to read things through thoroughly. So just make sure that you are saying quite simply, I don't need to know, for example, that you sterilized your earring hoops with Sorry, we'll read those in a second. The question just caught me out. You don't need to know that you sterilize your earring hoops with like 90% ethanol, for example, on your Instagram. I don't need to know. But if someone asks, or if they make obvious that they have someone vulnerable at home, for example, then is the time to tell them. I'll also say, if you can't get hold of hand sanitizer, you can still buy alcohol, in terms of like not booze, but like rubbing alcohol on Amazon, on eBay, sorry, like a kilogram for like 25 quid or something. And if you mix that with normal like aloe vera, or even dilute it with a bit of water solution, that, as long as it's over 80%, is good enough for international like sterilizing, kind of the bar that has been set by WHO, so the World Health Organization, for the amount you need to sterilize. Employee safety obviously is paramount. I know some of you have employees, but most of you don't. So I will just sort of skim over this quickly, and if anyone has more questions about this, then obviously I can bring it up more. But you just need to really make sure that your sort of policy that you are telling your employees is really crystal clear. What I will say is that I know lots of you, if you do have employees, it's only maybe 1 or 2 or an intern, you just need to make sure that you have in writing, not like a text or a little phone call, but in an email, that it is concrete, that you are not asking them to come into work, that you are telling them to take their health precedent over the business, all of these things. It just frees you up from any legal liability. God forbid that anyone wanted to take legal action out of something like this, but it really, really just frees you up. It only takes one law case, one bad newspaper article, whatever, to sort of drown an emerging brand. So just make sure that your employees know that they are under no obligation to have their work take precedent over their health. I mean, to be fair, I know most of the people who are on this chat. I think there's only 3 or 4 of you who actually have employees, and you guys are lovely, so I'm sure you've already done what you need to do. I would say optimism about return of demand can be a little bit dangerous. So although I did say, people will be looking to make purchases at the moment, there is a gap in the market. What I wouldn't say is don't buy more stock. I think that's really important right now. Unless you are having a clear demand, do not suddenly stock up on 60 of your latest bralettes, because you might not sell them. Having dead stock at the moment is going to be a nightmare. And also something to think about in terms of your own, sorry, excuse me, I just got an email, thing in terms of your own sort of mental health as a small business owner. I think this is something that's really overlooked. But you're not probably going to feel amazing if you're sitting around a bunch of empty stock every time you go into your office. So just be aware that you don't need to have loads and loads of each stock. It's time consuming. It's economically annoying and uncertain to have that sort of undefined asset that you will have on your mind constantly, that you sort of need to shift. Just have enough that you need, and don't feel bad sort of if you think, oh, I'm out of stock, but I don't want to buy any more of those. Just, for example, if someone wants to purchase it, make sure you have a very open dialogue with them. Or what I know some clients or some big companies do is they say that it's in stock, you can go through and purchase it, but before you click buy, you have a little pop-up that says this will take 2 to 3 weeks to arrive at you due to shipping delays. And that just gives you chance to restock or to make it or whatever, but it still allows the purchase to go through. People probably won't make the purchase and then decide, oh, it's going to take 2 weeks, what am I going to do, because they're sitting at home. They are less likely though to buy something, go to buy something, have it not in stock and return, because during this time period people just can't be bothered. People can't be bothered. If you're anything like me or my friends or my partner or whatever, we're on 1 million pages a day. we don't really remember what we've looked at as a consumer. Return clicks are pretty low at the moment on media websites. So I can see at Vogue on some of the articles that I've edited, return clicks. You can see when someone's tabbed it and then gone to return it. And usually you'd expect the return clicks to be in the hundreds of thousands. And at the moment they're at like 20 or 30,000. So that sort of speaks volumes about how much people are returning. There are sort of a couple of problems with supply chain. I know lots of people are supplying out of places like China. Sorry, I'm just gonna have a drink. I know lots of people are supplying out of places like China, and supply chains are really low. I spoke to a couple of factory owners in China yesterday. These factory delays over the next couple of weeks will be alleviated. I have a couple of really close friends who own factories in China, and their production has already like backlogged and kickstarted, so they are ready to go basically. What the problem has been for some of them is some of them have been possessed by the Chinese government and told you need to make face masks, regardless of whether before they were making like baby shoes, for example. So they're just sort of getting out of the process of having government forced face masks. So I wouldn't worry about the supply chain challenges too much. But I would certainly have an awareness of it. If you go to the Business of Fashion, for example, they have an excellent blog that is a live coronavirus blog that's really, really looking at sort of all of the impacts of coronavirus as they go. Something to note whilst talking about that is the sort of the downfall of brick and mortar retail. As I'm sure many of you guys will be aware, Barney's, sort of the iconic American department store, went into administration in August. We've just seen Neiman Marcus file bankruptcy, and Macy's will be filing bankruptcy in the next few weeks. In the UK, we've had Laura Ashley file bankruptcy. Actually, her grandson is a really good designer, interestingly. Anyway, and those sort of developments are to be expected. It is what will happen. These big companies will go, unfortunately, they will go bust. And I think for lots of designers, most people come to me and say, I want to be in Harrods. I want to be in Harrods. From a slightly older generation, and then sort of they're between like 18 and 24, usually they'll come to me and say, I want to be in Dover Street Market, which for those of you who don't know, is like a really kind of hip version of Harrods. It's like the more like conceptual department store in London. And I think this is just sort of the proof in the pudding that having a physical brick and mortar retail, which is what we call physical stores, brick and mortar, isn't the be all and end all. That actually you can have online retailers that are extraordinary. Someone like Matches Fashion, who I work with a lot, I think they are amazing. I think they're so good. I think they're the best retailer. And that's because it's very limited retail space in terms of you don't have to go into the store, you don't have to look where you are. So that online retail, is working. After the virus, I think online retail as well is going to take on a different facet. Many of you will drive lots of your sales online. I don't think any of you, that's not true actually. I was going to say, I don't think any of you will have had the majority of your sales in person, but maybe you will have really connected through meeting clients at LDC. But I think for the majority of you, you will need to be looking out over the next 2-3 months to see what this new facet of online retailing is. At the moment, if I were to like rub my little magic fashion crystal ball, I would probably say it's live stream shopping. So a couple of days ago, I finished up my sort of viewing of Shanghai Fashion Week, and I viewed Shanghai Fashion Week on my phone. And they paired it with Taobao, which is their like equivalent of Amazon, and were selling stuff on their Instagram Live. I'm sure, really, really sure, that Eva Chen, who is head of fashion at Instagram, will be releasing a similar feature over the next coming kind of 6 months. I would be really surprised if she didn't. She's very, very in touch with what's happening in Asia in terms of technological development. Obviously, she's Chinese herself. I think she might be Cantonese. From Hong Kong, sorry. But yeah, she's very aware, and she's in constant cooperation with Angelica Chung, who's the editor-in-chief of Chinese Vogue. So I would expect that to be a feature that's coming. I think that's just something to be prepared about. And it really speaks volumes about the power of social media. Doing a live stream is a really, really, really wonderful way to interact with your followers. It humanizes you as a consumer. I know lots of you have extraordinary stories behind your brands. Some of you are mothers who have started up companies, you know, whilst raising small kids at the same time, and your kind of brand is as much sort of representation of what that means to you. I know some of you are sort of couples who have started companies together and create really, really wonderful clothing together. So these are really lovely stories. People do love a story when they buy clothes. You know, if I told you one cloth was made in a factory in China, it's not particularly kind of evocative of emotion. But if I said, oh, this other cloth, you know, yeah, it was made in a factory in China, but it was conceived by a mother-daughter duo who wanted to revolutionize the face industry by making muslin cloths that had women in mind. All of this sort of giving an additional dialogue to it is something that consumers really, really want and enjoy. Instagram Lives, what you will want to do is, sorry, Cleo, I'm just going to answer your question actually after this, because Amanda, is that okay, or do I?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fine. Whenever you feel like you come to a natural point with it, obviously don't put yourself off your thought process.
I roll on. So if anyone wants me to embellish on anything, put in a comment and I'll come back to it straight away, because I really do have a sort of, I've got a lot in my mind bumbling around at the moment with all of these consultations. So it's a good time to do this actually, because I have all of the facts. What was I saying? Also, this is recorded. Rebecca, is it going to be available for the designers to get afterwards?
Yeah, so everything is recorded, and we will have it available to anyone who needs this information afterwards, or for anyone who wasn't able to make the webinar, it will be available.
Cool. So if you guys, there was anything you weren't sure or anything you wanted clarity on, grab the recording and then shoot me an email if you want me to just clarify on something really quickly, which is fine. Just to say, I don't think they have you probably have my email, most of you, but my email is just benjaminpark@bwpbrandconsultancy.com. So super easy peasy. If you are thinking about something and you want me to embellish because you're on the recording, shoot me an email. Anyway, so when you make your Instagram lives, I think for some people, they just feel like, oh, I've just spent half an hour talking to my bloody phone and then it's gone and only 6 people watched it. What a nightmare. So just make sure that you're saving them and posting them in Instagram TV, IGTV, or even kind of cropping them and posting them on your main Instagram account. And it just, you know, people will look at them and reference them all the time. You have no idea who will see them. I think times like this as well, it's really great to make sure that you're using hashtags. Also, if you can tap into any sort of little group chats or any sort of little chains. So I know Bianca won't mind me saying that, for example, she sent me a Instagram message because someone had started a really nice sort of support where everyone on the list was following each other, and that's a really nice way to engage in a community. And Bianca won't mind me saying, I'm sure, hi Bianca, that she participated in it really well, and then she sent it on to me, and then I'll make sure that I tag some of my friends, and you never know who will get sort of caught up in those things. I think often we just think, oh, like it's spam, but at times like this, they can be really interesting forces. And, you know, for example, that got chucked to me. Well, no one knew that it would come to me, apart from Bianca, of course, but no one knew that it would come to me and that I would have the skills, whatever that I have, and then that I might chuck it on to someone else who will then have the particular skill set they have, and it just kind of snowballs. gives you really nice sort of organic connections. Just to, did I say as well, make sure that you're using hashtags that are tailored to your market demographic. So there are apps. I know for some of you this will be really basic and for some of you this won't be. There are apps which you can download off the App Store or websites, which are just like the most popular hashtags for your niche. So if you're jewelry, there'll be the most popular hashtags for jewelry. And there are more specific sites that can give you like the most popular hashtags for gold jewelry, for example. And you know, for some of you that will work. Now, Cleo, I'm just gonna read. Amanda, do you read her comment to me or do I read it out to everyone?
I'll read it to you. So this is from Cleo.
Thank you.
Hi, Cleo. A couple of questions, but first of all, we have new collection stock ready to put on our e-com, but we're still planning to shoot the products this week. With the current situation, this hasn't been possible. Would you suggest even trying to launch new product at this moment in time, or more appropriate to focus on product that our customers are already familiar with and wait to launch new product when there's a clearer situation?
Yeah, so I would recommend for the most part waiting. There is sort of there's a duality to this. Cleo, I don't know what your product is. Amanda, do we have any idea?
Yes. So Cleo does kind of beautiful embellished long gowns, dresses.
Oh, I know what they are.
Yeah.
I know what they are. I remember now. And in terms of price point, it's more in the luxury price point, if I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Cleo. Hi. What I would say is if you're launching into a luxury market at the moment as a slightly lesser known brand, I would give it a wait until you can produce really, really nice content, basically. What I would also recommend during the time being is just making sure that you have your customers who have shopped with you in the past on a sort of mailing list. And if you wanted, you could roll out a sort of VIP mailing list to those guys to say like, look, this is sort of our brighten the situation, whatever. We've got these gorgeous new products just for you. Give them a discount if you can, 10%, whatever, free shipping, whatever, and roll them out that way. That also gives you a really great chance to get some customer feedback in a controlled environment. So sort of a test sample to see how people react to your new products. What else did you say? We have new collection of whatever it is, stock products with current situation. Was planning to shoot the products this week? Okay, so you haven't done your photo shoot yet. I would also say this downtime, I use that word reluctantly, is a really, really great time to plan your photo shoots and plan your project. So if you don't have shoot ideas, or if you have new projects coming out, or if you're looking to do something fun, do it now, because it's a really great time to use this to research location ideas, research for what your where your products will look best. So they might look best, for example, if you shoot them in a really lovely park. I know Kew Gardens, for example, is a really great shoot location because you have sort of the amphibian inside outside area. Or you might choose that you want to do, I'm just going to show a little picture of something that I put together for a brand. You might want to do like an online sort of Photoshop style presentation. So here's what I did for a jewelry brand. So we took their, can everyone see that? We took their jewelry and basically, because we couldn't do photo shoots at the time, we put their jewelry onto, because they do really beautiful jewelry, we took their jewelry and we put it onto Renaissance photos that were related to the jewelry. So of course this is, I think it's Vermeer, but don't at me about, it is. I'm pretty sure it is. My art's not that great. This is Vermeer's Girl with a Pearl Earring. And of course we took it and then put a gold and pearl earring on from that brand. Super cheap, super easy. Take this time, do a Photoshop course, whatever. Buy a 1-month Photoshop. It's like £16.99 or whatever to get access to Lightroom and Photoshop and whatever. And, you know, play around, look at different ideas, use this time to acquire new skills. As a independent brand, nothing is more important than being adaptable. Nothing. So if you're sitting there thinking, oh my God, I don't even know what Photoshop is, Google Photoshop tutorial and watch one. They're great. You can learn how to do things that previously would not have only cost you money, but you didn't have the time to do during this time period. And you can put together campaigns, you know, that look really professional. So this campaign, for example, I did this for the brand because I do Photoshop as well. And it had amazing engagement. We had such great reaction to it, and it drove sales in a really, really interesting way. And of course, what's great about that is how it was cheap, how it was affordable, how it was sustainable. And these are all things that you can also roll out, because a big thing about doing something that's not like a runway show, or not that you'll be doing runway shows. Well, I mean, if you are, invite me. No, I'm joking. About doing something like that is that you then have the sustainability edge that is coherent to lots of your brands. So, you know, nothing had to be flown to you. No model had to get in a car. You didn't have to lug a bunch of stuff around, whatever. You didn't have to rent a van with equipment, whatever. All of this pollution that is small but adds up, you didn't have to do. Who else?
Got some more questions coming in. Sorry, I can't pronounce the name of this quite right.
If you want to, Cleo, send me the products that you were thinking about rolling out, then I could probably give you a slightly more in-depth view, because I know there are a few little niche parts of like the luxury market that are specifically not being fulfilled at the moment. I know for some reason Dolce & Gabbana have sold out of their embroidered cape. Who knows why, but a lot of people are buying embroidered cape at the moment for like 1,200 quid. So there are niches of the market that are appearing in sort of weird and sporadic patterns. So if you want to shoot me an email, then I'll reply to that specifically for you. Sorry, Amanda.
Right. No worries. Okay, someone else has asked, amazing chat. What do you think of Etsy platform? Is it luxurious enough for fashion brands like us?
Etsy is a really difficult one. I would say 10 years ago, yes. Now, probably not. No, people will always come to me and say, I want to be on Etsy. And it's like, why? No. And they'll say, because I saw this like £6,000 like Venetian sofa on Etsy. And it's like, and what does that mean? People can post expensive things anywhere. You know, I could post this glass and tell you like it's a hand blown, like Shakespeare like drank from it, whatever. And people post crap all the time on Etsy. And I think that's one of the difficulties of it, which it is a really unmoderated sales site. So you might sell something, and then in the recommended, they might recommend you to someone else's product, which is really subpar or substandard. And then they have that affiliation between your product and their product, even though they're only related by algorithm, because you've both used red cloth or whatever in your description. So I think that's the danger, which is being affiliated with things that you don't necessarily want to be or have any interest to. I will sort of give an example. If any of you have your kids listening, turn away. Which was, there was someone who was selling really, really expensive like bangle bracelets. And then at the same time, someone was selling a new like sex toy called Bangle. And every time you clicked on their bangle bracelets on Etsy, it took you also through to recommendations for sex toys. And that was like a little thing that went a little bit viral on Instagram with the problem with the Etsy algorithm, and they didn't fix it because they don't really care, to be honest. There are other better platforms. Wolf and Badger isn't amazing, but there are worse places to be. I would also take this time to contact buyers. I know when people say that, they're like, what the hell does that mean? But contact buyers, you can quite easily get contact information from somewhere like Matches Fashion, Oops, sorry, I get distracted quite easily, and I'm just seeing messages pop up. You can get buyers contacts from places like Manchester Fashion. You can even search for them on Instagram. I would really, really take this time to contact them. I did Fashion Month ish, London, Paris, Milan. Ooh, no, and loads of buyers weren't there. Loads of my friends who are buyers didn't come because lots of them come across from Asia, and most of the influencers and buyers didn't come across from Asia. Quite a lot of the buyer team at Liberty didn't come, for example, which I know is a department store actually lots of you guys are really interested in, because Liberty is a little bit more not niche, and I don't want to say handmade, artisan. It's a little bit more of an artisan retailer. So there are gaps in the market. Buyers have to fill buying schedules at the end of the day. Lots of them weren't there. Lots of them have been looking to social media. Don't feel ashamed to get in contact, hit them up, send them a DM, shoot them an email, send them a lookbook, whatever. It's their job. I will say, you know, if you're a brand where you have like 2 products, I don't know, for example, I don't think we have any people. Is there anyone at LDC who just sells socks, Amanda?
No.
Okay, good. So if I'm targeting, no one will feel like I'm targeting them. If you just sell 2 types of sock, for example, don't message a buyer. It will just annoy them because they get a bunch of emails, and what they don't want is Joe Blogs at joeblogssocks.com telling them these are the greatest socks you're ever going to find, and he's only got like 2 socks. What you need to have is, that doesn't mean to say that you need to have a million products. Just make sure that for your business you are well represented, and that, you know, you have a brand identity figured out, that you have all of these parts of your business figured out. I will also say, if there are any brands who want brand consultancy that's not specifically tailored to coronavirus, but also just want some help with the brand identity, that can all be included in the super duper discounted package that I'm doing with LDC. I can really tailor it to whatever your company needs. What was I saying? Super duper brands, LDC package. I was talking about e-tailers. Yeah, so you just need to make sure that who you are working with and who you represents you is coherent with your business, and also just make sure that along those lines, that when you do contact buyers, you make sure that you tell them that you know which part of the market you're interacting, that you've done your research, that you have a story, that you have a brand DNA, that you have a website, that you have social media, blah, 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 blah. And also don't be afraid to say to a buyer, why don't you just take like 3 of them? I'll just give you like 3 to look at or to have in terms of in your stock, not to keep. Could you repeat the 2 courses that you said at the beginning? Yes, I can, but sorry, distracted again. I'll give you, yeah, in a second. Yeah, don't, you know, I do know there are some buyers who will take on, like, they'll literally say to small designers at places like St. Martin's, I only want 5 of these. And sometimes people are a bit like, 5? Or like, what is 5 dresses? When they think about, like, they expect Net-a-Porter to be like, give me 1 million. But, you know, if those 5 sell, then they'll make a repeat order, and that's just that. Or also leading on to that, a great thing to be able to show buyers is that you have a really, really proficient knowledge of the industry in general. You don't need to go home and crack open your 2,000-page Usborne fashion encyclopedia, but I would definitely recommend taking this time to educate yourself on parts of the industry that you don't know about. Get a news app and make sure that your settings are clicked on fashion. I know lots of you are like, fashion, these brands are sort of your part-time jobs. I know some of you it's your full-time jobs, whatever. But knowing about fashion is kind of make or break in terms of their perception of people for buyers. I know as a consultant and as someone who my partner was a buyer, is that if you come into a meeting or if we have a chat on the phone and they say, oh my gosh, this reminds me of spring, summer, Chloe, you know, last year, if you're not able to engage in that dialogue, it will be slightly embarrassing for you. You might not feel confident about it. I would say just a great thing to do, like I say, make sure you're checking Business of Fashion. I really can't recommend Business of Fashion enough. The editor-in-chief, Imran Ahmed, is extraordinary. Love him. He just does the best journalism. He makes sure they have the best stuff coming through. And then Vogue have an app called Vogue Runway, which literally lets you look at all of the latest collections. I know lots of you guys will have downtime at the moment. Well, I say downtime again, reservedly. And it will allow you to look at your designs, reference other designs, look to other designers for inspiration. You know, a designer who's really blowing up at the moment is Schiaparelli, sort of the Italian designer who's known for surrealism. And if I bring up their spring couture, lots and lots of designers are referencing them at the moment because they do these sort of like giant bird feather balls, for example. And like Surrealist Times brings surrealist fashion. Anyway, I'll just answer whilst I'm on that.
Yeah, Ben, I think in the interest of time, we might have to go through all the questions a bit quicker, if that's okay. And don't forget, everyone, you can stock with LDC during this time as well.
Oh yeah, that I would say.
Right, so advice about rebalancing people's concerns, staying safe, healthy, keeping their jobs, versus getting them to shop, place orders of non-discretionary items.
Yeah, like I say, there's kind of no way to sugarcoat this. I would love to say that people are going to be going out and chucking around money left, right, and centre, but they're not, to be honest. Unfortunately, everyone has an awareness that we're probably heading towards a second recession. I think when I have said that before, people are like, don't fearmonger. I'm not. I do think genuinely, and talking to people who are kind of a lot more qualified than myself, that we will head towards a second recession, unfortunately, and not just a recession in the UK, but a worldwide serious recession, with the American stock market crashing and with our own stock market crashing. Consequently, it's really difficult to convince people to get I'm going to call them non-essential items or luxury items. So like I said, what I would recommend them to do is make them sort of comfort consumerism. So make sure that you're producing products and advertising them in a way that feels like it fits into someone's lifestyle. It's so cliche to say, like, become a lifestyle brand. You're not selling jewelry, you're selling dreams. But it is true. If you, during this time, people are looking for any kind of straggle of information that makes them feel better. So if you make people feel like a community, there will be serious economic response to it. You know, unfortunately, people are dying, and people are looking for comfort. So if you can provide that, then good.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks. 2 questions here.
How are you doing for time? How much over am I going?
You're probably about 5 minutes over currently, but I think we can zoom through these. There's not too much more. Someone is asking if you could repeat the 2 courses that you suggested at the beginning, and do you think that this is a good time to release our own website shop, since so far we have only been selling via other web shops?
Okay. The first one was, now it's completely gone out of my mind. Any suggestions on how to use social media at customers at the moment? Is that the first question I'm answering?
No. Could you repeat the 2 courses that you suggested in the beginning?
So if you go on a website called Future Learn, they have one course which is called Fashion and Sustainability, Understanding Luxury Fashion in a Changing World. And that's done by Kering. I'm hoping, let me see what the other one is actually called. You guys, most of you, I'm sure will know who Kering is. They're the luxury conglomerate that owns, mostly if you can name a brand, they probably own it in terms of owning. Between Kering and LVMH, they own Gucci, Yves Saint Laurent, Boucheron, Bottega Veneta. Anyway, and that's really great. I think that's about £40. It's free, but if you want like a certificate or something at the end, it's like £40. What I will say is you can actually just take a screenshot of the screen when the certificate comes through. So there's no point in paying. And then there's a couple of other fashion courses up at the moment. So if you just go on to www.futurelearn.com, Understanding Fashion from Business to Culture is by Institut Français de la Mode. And that's done by Jacques Mousse, I think. That's the Jacques Mousse one, who's a new designer. University of Leeds are also doing an innovation, the fashion industry course. University of Glasgow are doing the Royal History of Fashion, loads and loads. Fashion Revolution is doing sustainable fashion. University of Exeter is doing one. Yeah, loads. There's a business of fashion course by Armit University. So yeah, check it out, futurelearn.com, or go to Business of Fashion and type in courses and they'll direct you. Sorry if I'm rambling.
No, that's okay. So the next question was, do you think this is a good time to release our own web shop, since so far we have only been selling via other web shops?
I was about to online an online vintage shop. Okay, I am hesitant about answering this question because it depends what you are selling, the type of product you're selling in terms of vintage. You know, if you're selling vintage clogs, now is probably not the time to start. But you know, it really depends what kind of vintage things you are selling. I wouldn't recommend Etsy, but if you can do some really, really fun vintage, like I said, Photoshop, or do some really fun sort of up close items of vintage products. People really love history and the sort of the history behind vintage products. I think you can launch a website during this time period. Like I said earlier, you know, it is a difficult time to launch new products, but there is sort of the duality to that, which has just been demonstrated by the music industry, interestingly. So people like Lady Gaga, for example, held off publishing their album because they thought no one would listen to it during the time period. But the artist The Weeknd published his album and reached like 100 million streams within sort of a couple of days, and it's because people didn't have anything else new. I would need to know more about your specifics, so feel free to shoot me an email. But I think for the most part, as long as you're interacting with really great photography, really great Photoshop, have some really interesting visuals,
Come in.
then that's Alison, you've just taken over my page. Then that's really, what do I do? Just click. There we go. That's, I think you've just like hosted, Alison.
Have I?
But anyway, don't worry. Yes, like I say, also there are a bunch of really, really great vintage inspired Instagram accounts. If you want to contact them because you have any really cool pieces, ask them to post your pieces, ask them to recommend you. They'll probably do it for free. Some of them have like tens and hundreds of thousands of followers. It's a really great way to drive a specifically niche market towards yourself. Is that?
Yeah, that's great. I think that's all of the questions answered. So obviously, if anyone else has any more, we've reached our time limit for now. But as you said, this webinar has been recorded and it will be available to everyone. And yeah, if anyone has any further questions, then do feel free to email Ben or myself, amanda@learndesignclub.com. And do check out all of the kind of consultations, brand masterclasses, and everything we have on offer. And yeah, thank you so much, everyone. Yeah. I'll just pop the email address in the chat.
Yes.
You guys.
Sorry, Amanda, should I say something should I put my email in as well?
You don't darling.
Alison, do you mind turning off your microphone because you're somehow interfering? Sorry.
Nothing like technology. What I will say, you guys, like I said, shoot me an email. That is the BWP Brand Consultancy. This package, I worked really hard to make sure that it is the absolute cheapest package we could do in terms of making it sustainable for designers. I would recommend, if you don't come to me, that you do get professional help, whether it be from a consultant, is probably the best, because obviously we overlook the whole fashion industry. We're not specialized in one specific facet. And that it's just really important to make sure that you're making sure that you're reaching out, you're staying motivated, you're interacting. Like I said, we are only £125. Is that right? Is that the LDC price?
Yeah.
And we made that because we, as a company, my company, we don't make any profit off that. But what it allows us to do is it allows us to pay our independent researchers sort of what they need, the living wage at the moment. Another thing I'll say is, if you're looking for fashion news but don't want to read the news a lot, I've just released a podcast working with some other friends at Vogue, and we are interviewing people like Susie Lau, Brian Boy, Declan Chant, Ricardo Tisci, Stella McCartney over the next couple of weeks. And we give the fashion news and then we do an interview. My most recent episode was with another big brand consultant and street styler. And he gave some really, really great tips on how brands can stand out during this time. It's just called This Week in Fashion. It's on Spotify and it's on Apple iTunes, Apple Podcast Store. And yeah, it's a really great podcast that we've worked hard to make sure is as informative as possible. So yeah, cool.
Great. Thanks so much, Ben. And we'll send everyone the information about the packages and everything we discussed here in a follow-up email. But thank you everyone for your time, and thank you so much, Ben.
Thanks, Amanda. Thanks, everyone. I hope it was interesting at the very least.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.